everybody. I'm Larry Vella.
I'm Abe.
And welcome to Tabletop Hour. Thank you for hanging out with us. We're here to talk about everything cool that's going on in Tabletop for the next 60 minutes, really now. 59 minutes and 30 seconds.
Dang.
Very
precise.
Very precise.
Yeah.
Swiss.
Yeah.
So, all kinds of stuff to talk about. Lots of stuff have been going. We have news to go over. We have RPG stuff to go over. We have rumors to go over. All kinds of cool stuff. So, definitely let's start off with the biggest. The official news is that from Games Workshop, Codex Harlequins, right there, is out.
This is the new Harlequin book.
It is the new Harlequin Codex. It came accompanied. We are here to show you. We are also presenting not only the Codex, but all of the new miniatures that came along with it.
For Harlequins.
For Harlequins.
There is a new Eldari miniature.
That's true. There is an Eldari.
Yes.
There is a Webway Gate. We do not have it yet. It's coming shortly. Ta-da!
Woo.
All right. So this is the latest book. This is like the 13th Codex, something like that. There's a lot. It's way up there.
More than
Maybe
13.
be like the 14th Codex that's coming out for Warhammer 40,000 for 8th edition. The Harlequins are they're one of the they're one of the original oldest factions in the game. Mm-hmm. They came out in 1989, I believe.
No, were they always their own faction though?
Yeah, they were. They predate Craftworlders.
Because it's the old Regiment of Renowned Harlequins.
Correct. Yep.
Too, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not necessarily like its whole faction.
They had an entire army list. They're one of the very first armies in Warhammer during Rogue Trader back in the 80s that actually had its own army list.
Right.
There were very few armies that even had army lists. All of the Craftworld and Aspect Warriors and all that stuff hadn't even been invented yet. And then they went dormant for about 20 years. More than 20 years. And then they came back
You'd find
triumphantly.
like characters here and there.
Yeah,
occasionally. Third edition had like something, right? There was like a White Dwarf like
they
character.
They were still
like
legal, but like they went like after third they went out.
Exactly.
That's when they went out.
Yeah.
And then they were just part of the lore forever. Mm-hmm. And then they came back. In seventh, they were back for 8th edition. When they came back for 7th, they got an all new, entirely new all plastic range that's beautiful. All kinds of stuff. Both infantry vehicles.
Yep.
Un-HQ technically.
Yeah.
Now they have two.
Two
HQs.
It was the mid 2000 teens, so they changed their whole look. They got rid of the whole Harlequin suit. They got like booty shorts and Daddy's Little Monster T-shirts and everything. And went real Harlequin.
Terrible.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Suicide Squad's a bad movie, guys. Let's just
don't watch it. Don't watch it. We're gonna leave it right there. Watch the trailer 3 times in a row.
If you didn't get my joke, don't go do research. You're better off.
You're good. So, what do we think about this codex?
It's good for a laugh.
Ha 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 ha.
They're clowns. This is going to be an interesting codex because it has a lot of potential power in it.
Yes.
And if everything goes really right for you,
we have Xenos 1, so we can do compare and contrasts.
Right. It can be incredibly offensively powerful. It's definitely glass cannony.
It is. I almost don't consider Custodes to be a glass cannon army anymore.
At all.
They're so durable that they're not. They're a very low model count army, but this is the glass cannon army.
This is much more of a glass
even
cannon.
More than even more than Dark Eldar.
Definitely.
Like these guys don't have the bodies, they don't have the numbers. And they're expensive. Now they have the potential, like Abe was saying, of being really crazy off the chart lethal.
Yeah.
But I mean, you want to talk about an army? This is the absolute army that if you screw it up and take a punch, early in the game and you didn't expect it, you will not recover.
Now they do have some tricks to make individual units be very hard to kill.
Yes.
I think if you manage to combo everything perfectly, you can have a unit that your enemy is at -3 to hit them. And they have a 3-up invulnerable save, and your enemy's at -1 to wound them as well.
And you're moving crazy fast.
So, again, that can definitely make one of your units very hard to deal, very resilient.
Mm-hmm.
So they do have some kind of secret resilience in there, and they have some tricks. But it's definitely one of the issues that the entire list I think struggles with is they have almost nothing in their list that can do 2 damage.
Correct.
Right? So, in fact, the only thing that actually gets a weapon that does 2 damage is the bike guys, whatever they're called.
Okay.
They have their glaives and their BoLS that can do 2 damage. But everything else in the list does either 1 damage, D3 damage, or D6 damage, every other weapon. And a few of them do some random mortal wounds, too. But that's a reliability problem they run into.
Yes.
So, a lot of the things you're seeing out there in the meta that do very good are weapons that do straight up 2 damage, 3 damage. You Captain Smash doing 4 damage.
That's
kind of thing.
And that's what tournament players and competitive 40K players want. They're not even so much interested in the overt power level. They want the reliability,
right?
Because that's what you can build your tactics about. You can build your success rate. If you're a competitive player, you don't want an army that's gonna bring you to victory, a third of the time or a quarter of the time or even half the time. You always are trying to build lists and run tactics and use stratagems and combinations that have as little to chance as possible. So you always are looking for things that will remove dice and remove randomness. And the Harlequin book has a lot of randomness.
There's a lot of randomness. It's also a small list. It's like 10 units, I want to say, something like
Pretty
that.
Pretty small. Let's count it up right now.
Yeah, it's a very small list, so it is unfortunately an army that does get hit fairly hard by the rule of 3.
Yes.
Playing a large, only Harlequin army has its challenges simply because of things like that. And you've got Troop Masters.
You have Troop Masters and Shadow Seers. Those are your HQs. So you do have 2.
Troops are your troops.
Troop is your troops.
Yep.
1. Then elites, you have Death Jesters, Solitaires.
And Solitaires, you can only have 1 of anyway.
You can only have 1 of anyway. And then Fast Attack, Skyweavers, Voidweavers, Starweavers. Actually, no, the Starweaver is a transport.
And the Voidweaver.
And the Voidweaver is heavy support. So, yeah, 1 each. So 1 Fast Attack, 1 heavy support.
So 8 units, I think, actually.
2
HQ.
We're not going to count the web weight.
2 HQ, 2 elites, 1 troops. And then 1 fast attack, 1 heavy support, and 1 dedicated transport.
8.
So yeah, 8 units.
8 units total.
So yeah, that's a very small model count. Now the troops and the dedicated transport ignore the rule of 3.
Sure.
But
which
Solitaire,
they better.
Yeah, but the Solitaire still only gets 1 unit.
Mm-hmm.
You can only take 1 of those. So you're really relying on your troops to do a lot of damage if you're doing rule of 3 gameplay.
Yep.
Which is unfortunate, but I think in a lot of ways the Harlequins are maybe a codex that's not designed to stand on their own.
They absolutely were not a standalone codex in 7th. They're more of one now, but they're still not quite there.
Right.
I think this is an army that needs 1 more codex with 2. They're 1 more good wave away. A new codex with another 2 or 3 units to flesh the army out, and then they'll probably be able to stand alone.
If they even want them to.
Right. That's true.
Because a lot of the Eldar fluff, more and more with the Ynnari, is coming together into more of a cohesive whole.
Yep.
This book, and we talked about it a little bit in our overall review, but there's a lot of interesting fluff in this book, and it feels like with the newer fluff they've been doing, the Eldar, the different Eldar faction storylines are coming together.
Sure.
You used to not really hear a lot about that, right? Like the old Eldar, Craft World Eldar didn't really deal with Dark Eldar a lot.
Right. It was like a big deal. Ooh, they're like even talking to each other, and now it's happening all the time.
It's happening all the time. The Harlequins, if they were mentioned, were this one-off thing. They weren't, but now they have all these stories. I mean, this book has a lot has stories that are in the Dark Eldar book told from the Harlequin perspective, and it's the same story, and
vice versa,
and they're working with Vect and things like that.
Right.
So you really feel that these codexes are kind of coming together, and this feels like, and then this book has the Webwood Gate in it, right?
Sure.
Which is an Eldari unit. It's not a Harlequin unit.
Correct.
It's specifically meant to be used by other Eldari factions also,
and may even be better used by other factions.
By other factions, yeah. So it's an interesting thing. So I don't know if this book is meant to be its own book in some ways. I mean, you could build an all Harlequin book list if you wanted to.
Sure.
But it feels like much more and more they're doing this with new books, that they want you to build this as part of an overall Eldari army in some ways.
I would agree. And I've seen some of the guys who are out there. We've heard from Goat Boy, and we've heard from Hero, and we've heard from a lot of the guys who are just hardcore players who are just always really into these particular factions, and even they're building lists that are a third, a Harlequin battalion, a Drakari battalion, and Craft World battalion, and they do work really, really well together.
They work well together, yeah.
So I think that they have built, this is just your third flavor of Eldar.
Yeah.
It's strawberry.
No, there are potential to, Larry was saying you don't have a lot of models in these lists. They actually did, I don't know, we can give you an exact price comparison, but a basic trooper in the troop, or player, I think is what they're called, isn't it? His player is only 13 points.
In general, there have been pretty substantial cost reductions across the board, which is huge. Right. That is already huge right there. We'll go through a few of them.
Sure.
So you can grab that, and I'll grab this, and we'll go just talk about a few of the things.
So right now, in this book, a trooper, or player, is that what they're called again? The member of the troop
went from 15
to 13 base
in the index. There's only 8 of them. Let's go down.
So Death Jester is 45 base.
75.
All right.
Huge substantial drop.
That's that's in their base now.
Yeah, exactly, base.
The Shadow Seer is 125 now.
Was 134, so about 10% drop.
Skyweavers went down to 30 points.
From 35, so about 6-7% decrease.
From this isn't counting weapons again.
Sure.
Solitaires are 84 points.
94. 10-point drop.
Starweaver is 79.
Same.
A Troop is 13.
15. Yep, slightly small.
A Troop Master is 70.
59. They went
up.
They gained an aura.
They gained a good aura.
A good aura. We'll talk about that.
And the Void Weaver is 68 points.
68.
Which is the same.
Base.
How much is like the Harlequin's Kiss and stuff like that?
The Harlequin's Kiss, the Harlequin's Caress.
The Kiss.
The Kiss is 14.
Right, so that went down to 7 points.
All right.
And that's a weapon that almost pretty much every model in the army gets.
Sure.
Or can get. So that's a real big...
Should have.
Right, that's a real big drop. Zephyr Glaives went from 11 to 6. Harlequin's Blades went from 1 point to 0 points.
On the ranged weapons, let's look at the Shrieker Cannon. So the standard hallmark of Death Jesters.
Right, it's 0 points.
Okay, so it's just baked into... So Death Jesters went down substantially. Right. You'll be able to take 40. You'll be able to take 3 of them.
There you go. But I think one of the things to point out is that the troop comes base with the Harlequin's Blade and a Shuriken pistol. Right, so the Harlequin's Blade also went down a point. So they went down from being a minimum of 16 points.
Sure.
To a minimum of 13 points.
Which is great.
So at 13 points a model, if you wanted to just spam a bunch of troops.
Sure.
And remember, a Harlequin Trooper has 4 attacks.
Right.
And
they're fast.
They're fast, and the Troop Master's Aura lets you reroll wounds,
which is really good.
Really
so solid.
If you just want to spam a lot of fast infantry with the 4-1 save, you can actually have a kind of horde Harlequin army.
Right. So and you can see that now. You're starting to see lists where people are saying, well, maybe this is actually the ideal role of Harlequin. So you're seeing things with like. On the Drukhari side, it definitely looks like you're seeing a lot of people kind of focusing on grotesques because they're so point efficient for per wound. So that's just your big giant pile of meat. You're using grotesques. Alternatively, you're seeing just triple Ravagers.
Sure.
And they're just staying back with disintegrators and just so that's the shooting part of it. You're using the Craftworld Eldar. Third of your armies to get mainly Farseers. All the psychic support.
Yeah, people like Farseers. People like the Eldar Flyers. Are a good option.
Yeah, Crimson Hunters are back. So you're using those to keep back and just kill things selectively. And then you have and then you're using the Harlequins. You're just running them up there. So that's that's the assault element, and that's tough.
Tough.
If you're across the table and you're and you have that, suddenly there's no weaknesses, right? Harlequins as the assault element of screaming at you because they're going to be they're going to be on you on turn 2 at the latest. They have a good chance of getting to you on foot on turn 1 easily.
We did the math. A Solitaire, I think, a Solitaire with the right things rolling well can move like 90 inches.
Has a potential 90 inches of movement he can get.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you take a 4x6 table in Pythagorean theorem, the longest distance straight line you can move on a table from corner to corner, the long way is 88 inches.
And he ignores terrain and individual models.
Right,
also,
so he doesn't care. So
he doesn't have to go around anything.
So you cannot hide from the Solitaire.
You can't. He can also do, what did we say, like 70 damage or something?
He can. It could happen. We're not going to say it's statistically likely, but a Solitaire can one-shot a Reaver Titan.
Yeah.
A single round of assault. It can happen. Which is kind of the once again. There's a lot.
It's not going to happen.
There's a lot of randomness in this book, but the potential, the high end of the damage on the bell curve is exceptionally high on a per model basis for Harlequin. So these guys can, if you're rolling hot, you can take down almost anything.
Sure,
with Harlequins.
I mean, individual models in this book can all get up to 5 or 6 attacks in times with doing D3 damage each with the Harlequin's Kiss, which is crazy. We got a question out there.
We have a question. What do we got, everybody?
Do Harlequins seem viable as a standalone army, or are they going to be better as an ingredient in Eldari soup?
I think they're better as an gradient.
Wind back 5 minutes.
Yeah, no,
and just watch what we just said.
Yeah.
So
but
I think
the better is an ingredient.
I think if you're playing Kill Team and little tiny, if you're playing 500-point games and 1,000-point games, they're going to be great. I think once you hit above 1,000 points, they really need to be mixed into a broader Eldar soup list. And that's the other thing is that now that now that we do have 3 Harlequin Codex, Eldar Codexes. Eldar soup is a really viable thing.
It's a really viable.
Like it is, clearly it's not Imperial soup, but with the rule of 3 and being able to draw from 3 codexes, you can build some good stuff.
I mean, to me, one of the interesting things you have to ask yourself is that there is some overlap. Like, functionally, what's the difference, at least in role, and a lot of stuff, just how they function on the tabletop between like witches and Harlequins, right? They're a very similar unit, so I don't know.
I mean, I still like the fact that my problem with witches has always been that all they can do is assault. There's no shooting at all. Whereas Harlequins at least can.
The Harlequins do have some tricks out there, so they do have definitely some cool things they can do.
You can give them lots of fusion guns.
They can
do various roles.
So they have. I mean, like we're saying, right? You can do an individual troop model, right?
Sure.
A basic infantry model with 5 attacks in close combat can do 15 damage there. Right. They could do another 6 damage with their fusion blaster.
Yep.
So that's 21 points of damage from every individual
from a dude
basic trooper.
Yeah.
So with the new Harlequins, what's one attire for such a fancy army? Let me ask for clarification.
Yeah.
What are you gonna wear? I mean, I think you have to I think you really need to wear like a nice, kind of like a Joker suit, like something green and purple with some nice face
leotards.
Masks.
I mean, if anybody's seen the Warhammer community video, you just need to dress up like the mime every single time you play.
Yep, you can do a mime. I think like a less crazy, more like Jack Nicholson Joker, kind of more that classy Joker. Wouldn't be a nice bad suit to wear. Yeah.
All right, so that's Harlequins. Now we're going to move on to...
we do have some deep dive YouTube videos out.
We do.
If you guys want more in-depth talk about Harlequins.
Yeah, we tore this codex apart in depth. Took much longer. That is on our YouTube channel. YouTube, we'll just type in Bell Lost Souls. You'll see it.
Yep.
It's right there. Okay, we're going to pull this guy aside. All right.
What's next, Larry?
Moving on.
He doesn't
this,
like my games.
Once again, this is not the new Imperial Knights Codex. This is the 7th edition one. I have a feeling that, like Harlequins, it's going to look almost identical. So whenever this codex comes out for 8th edition, we're going to give you all out there in internet land our standard warning. Be very careful when you're on eBay.
I wonder, though, because there is a new model we know. Right?
That's true. It could be a Castellan.
It could be a Castellan.
Which would be cool.
Yeah.
And so the big news is that in the room... So first of all, this is going to be the next codex. We know this because Games Workshop has already said it. They said the next 3 codexes were going to be Deathwatch, Harlequins, and Imperial Knights, and Deathwatch and Harlequins are out. So this guy's next. We do not have an exact date on it. The smart money, what everyone is saying is, you should assume, 1 to 3 weeks away.
Yeah, I mean,
in there.
We've heard people. I know we're on the rumors was it's going to be in the summer, and I feel like it's about summertime.
I do feel the June bugs. There's June bugs flying around in my yard. The fireflies are back. I'm thinking these guys are This is imminent. We just don't have an exact date. And as opposed to Deathwatch and Harlequins, this book is going to have a lot of new models that are coming with it, which is really cool. So clearly we've already had our normal Imperial Knights. Everyone, knows them, loves them. When Forgebane came out, we got the Armigers.
Which is, again...
The Armiger Warglaves.
Forgebane is just such an interesting thing that it came out.
Yes.
We don't normally see them releasing new models for a codex, 2 months before the codex comes out. Right? That's really rare.
So there's a ton of rumors and a ton of stuff that Games Workshop has announced about this book. So we know that it's coming next. We know that they said that it is going to have sub-faction rules.
Sure.
For different houses and for free blades, which is awesome and cool. That's not a surprise. Almost every codex in 8th edition, very few of them don't have sub-factions at this point.
And
Deathwatch doesn't have sub, but very, very few.
It's true, and a lot of the ones that don't are not considered to be very good, with the exception... Deathwatch, I think people are still on the fence on.
Sure.
But with really the exception of,
Thinking about it.
People have liked. Custodes are probably the power list that didn't have a real sub-faction, right?
Yeah, because Grey Knights didn't, but...
Grey Knights didn't.
And they're not a power
list. No one knows. I mean, Blood Angels, arguably, but...
And Custodes, yeah.
But Blood Angels are, in a sense, just their own sub-faction, right?
Sure,
they're
Dark Angels.
They're very much sort of just
But this is Knights, and Knights are all about... I mean, if there's someone who should have sub-factions, it should be these guys. We know that these things are coming. We know that there is a whole new Knight kit, the Castellan, that was showed off a couple months ago, which is the big, huge... It's the heavy firepower. So basically, we're going to, in plastic, have the little guy, the normal Knight, and then we're going to have the slightly bigger, really up-armed Castellan.
It's like, what do they call them? Warhounds, Reavers, and Warlord Titans?
Kind of, but little. But little. Which is really cool. People have, this will now be the when the 8th edition Codex comes out. This will be the 3rd Knight Codex. Mm-hmm. Boy, they cranked them out really fast. But this will be the first time with the introduction of the 2 new ones, and then not even counting the gazillion Forge World Knights that have been made. You will finally be able to make a really cool complete Knight army that's not just 5 of this guy, which is what you normally see, and I'm really excited about that. Lots of rumors though, so we're gonna start to go over those. First of all, the Castellan, which you've already seen. You can look it up. There's pictures on BoLS everywhere. The Castellan is said to be a combo kit. This is not in any way a surprising development. If true, Games Workshop in fact rarely doesn't do combo kits.
Sure, I mean, even the basic Knight had different options.
So we've seen the one that they showed off 2 months ago was pretty much all guns all the time. There's supposed to be a variant of it that has at least some really large-scale close combat things.
I'm going to guess that it's going to have a big chainsword, right?
I think, and there's...
on one arm, a big claw on the other, and like little chain swords on its... instead of little cannons up here, or no, it's going to have flails. They're just going to spin around.
Oh, that'd be great!
Instead of the little... Yeah,
counts as fly.
The little turret things, it's just going to spin there and have little flails that like, bam, whack you as you walk by.
That's terrible.
Yeah, with little like servo skulls up there banging them.
If it was a Gargant, I could absolutely see chain swords on rockets.
On rockets.
Just huge... 20-foot chain swords that they just fire towards you.
In the close combat phase, but anything within 20 inches.
It'd be great. So there's supposed to be the Castellan is the rumors are that we're going to be getting a combo kit, and that second variant is going to have some type of very large scale, for Knights. These aren't Titans. Close combat options. We have the Armiger Warglaive here. These came with Forgebane, and rumors and deduction tells us that there is a new kit of these guys that's going to be coming in some way, because when we looked very closely, once again, there's a post on BoLS about this. Just type in Armiger, you'll find it.
Yep.
In both the instructions that came with Forgebane reference part numbers and weapon options and faceplate options that are not on this kit. And the sprues themselves, the Armiger Warglaive sprues, also have like A, B, C, Ds on them, and some of those letters are missing. Right. So guaranteed that either they're going to make another version of this as a standalone kit, or possibly this will be a kit that comes with all the sprues and you can build it in different ways. But there will certainly be some other variant of this guy that has different weapons.
Right, and we assume that the Warglaive is actually the variant name. It's not necessarily like specifically spelled out, but it's probably the other one will be an Armiger or something else.
Right, exactly.
Just like you have the Knight. The Knights are all different names.
Yeah, there's like the Cerastus blank and the Cerastus this. And yeah, so Armiger is probably the class name, and then there's a bunch of different ones. So we're going to have variants of this guy, we're going to have variants of this guy, we're going to have, there's already a bunch of variants. But
we're supposed to get to, there's rumors also that we're getting more of the variants, right?
Yes, that there's supposed to be like...
Twin battle cannon.
10 different war, there's supposed to be 10 different Knight war data sheets in the book. I don't know how many we already have in... Doing a quick count on Imperium 2. Let me go look at Questor Imperialis here just to see how many we actually have. I'm looking. I'm going fast. I'm going fast, guys, for you.
Faster.
I'm trying. Okay, right there. Okay. Questor Imperialis. Right now we have the Knight Errant, the Knight Paladin, the Knight Warden, the Knight Gallant, the Knight Crusaders. We have 5. So if we had 5, let's assume there's 2 of these. So that's 6, 7, 2 of the Castellan, 8, 9, and then a bonus.
And then a bonus.
So there'll be a 10th one. There's also rumors that there's going to be. We wanted to show you this now. So we're gonna show you our new fancy overhead camera. Are you ready? Are you ready for this? Check it out. Let's do it. Let's do it. Whoa! So as you all know, when you build the knight kit, it opens up, and you have this cool little interior space here, right? And everyone was like, "Wow, it's really cool." There's like this. They actually have all these struts and support, but like nothing goes in there, and that's weird. So don't know if this is true. It's just a rumor, but there is a rumor that that this kit, that the new codex will include a named character. So there may be a famous knight, which is really cool, and that there may be an accessory sprue that actually lets you detail that. So possibly the potential to, like on Land Raiders and Rhinos, you may have the ability to actually get like a dude and be able to build an interior, which would be cool. Just saying, it would be cool.
We've heard rumors about the name character and just that there may be some kind of character just in general, a generic character.
Yeah.
Knight also.
Yeah. So pretty cool, exciting stuff. We're all gonna find out in the next 1 to 3 weeks, roughly.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do a character thing, because I mean, that's an easy way to get another unit out of it, right?
Yeah,
without much more. It's the same thing they did with like the Dread Knight, Grey Master, and Grey Knights, things like that.
Yeah, and he's either like it could be a famous free blade, or it could just be. I mean, House Terrain is pretty much the kind of like the Ultramarines of Knights. It's the one they paint up, and it gets the most detail, and they talk about it all the time. So it could be like the Baron of of House Terrain.
And we heard some rumors about free blades too, right?
Yes, free blades are supposed to. There is talk that free blades are going to actually go back. So the goal is to make free blades very different and kind of idiosyncratic, so that you don't feel like I'm just going to buy a free blade and he's like every other free blade. They really want the free blades supposedly to feel interesting and different, and let the player have a big part of their role. So a chart was described that sounds to me very similar to the old. The doctrine advantages and disadvantages chart from the Space Marine Codex, like 4th, like from 4th. So there was talk that basically there'd be a chart of, here's a bunch of advantages that your knight can do, but then there's a balanced chart of disadvantages, and for every advantage you pick, then you have to pick off the disadvantage table. So you're going to end up with this weird kind of mix and match. I'm faster because I'm faster, but then because I'm chivalrous, there's this thing that I can't do, right? So you're going to be able to kind of mix and match, and that's a cool concept. Games Workshop has done that in the past. They haven't done it in a while, actually, but for something like like free blades, I think that's a cool example. The closest thing I think I've
seen recently is the Satan Shard chart, right?
Oh, sure.
Because the Satan Shard had a not disadvantages, but they had here's the 6 advantages you can have, right?
Sure.
And you can pick one of those,
right?
Then they give them a special rule. So that's definitely a cool
I'm
thing.
sure there must have been things like that in fantasy, right? There was probably like some weird advantage disadvantage stuff. I know they did it in 40K, but it was like back in the day.
Not a ton, really.
Okay.
I mean, you had things like the Bretonnian Knightly Vows, right?
Sure. Yep.
But that wasn't really that was just you could pick what rule you wanted.
Sure.
But sometimes it had a disadvantage kind of thing.
Cool.
The problem, always the downside to charts is that if they're random, they're unreliable and no one takes them, and if they're not random, people game them out.
Which is the real problem.
And then you all take every option is the same.
Yeah, you very quickly find out what the best one it is, and then getting all your free blades look like that. So it would. I actually, in the case of free blades, I do actually like the concept of if that is true, I would do it with I would do it with you pick your advantage and then you roll for your disadvantage.
Sure. That's not a bad one. I also do, or you simply do something like the Satan Shards and say like, you can't pick it once you pick this advantage. You can't pick it again.
Sure.
Right? Each of your free blades has to be different somehow.
Yep. That's another good way.
Which is a good way of doing it. So if you take more than one free blade, you don't just have the same thing. But speaking of other rumors, what are the rumors we had out of the pipeline, Larry?
Let's take our knights away. We're just gonna leave them here because they're so pretty and we like them. Brand new, hot off the rumor, hot off of the rumor mill, is there's talk that at some point before the end of the year that there is a new Eldar Codex coming, and that it is an Ynnari Codex. And let me tell you, they need it.
Yeah, we were just talking about, just a few minutes ago, we were talking about how they, with 3 codexes already, they've got that interesting, they're really doing good soup. So with
4 would totally do it.
Give them 4 codexes, yeah. That's a rich stock at this point.
I mean, there's a part of me that's like, do we really need 4 Eldar Codexes? But then every time I say that, and that's because I feel, once again, there's already a disparity in the game against, like, I play orcs, and I have my codex, and I just have to deal with it. Or I play Necrons, and I just have to deal with it, or Tau. But when... But the Imperium is just, they have access to so many books that they can mix and match. So you know what? I don't have a problem.
And Chaos is real big now, too.
Exactly. Chaos is going to have plenty. If this trend of they have Thousand Sons and they have Death Guard, which tells me as just a business common sense, right? You've already done it twice. Why would you not eventually expand it? And,
we've heard,
and there's going to be an Emperor's Children Codex down the line, and and a World Eaters Codex down the line, because why not, right?
I mean, we've heard very persistent rumors of an Emperor's Children Codex.
Yes, absolutely.
And we've heard rumors of some sort of Black Legion expansion.
Sure.
Right, with Abaddon and stuff like that. So even just those two alone.
Right. He's clearly way too important of a character in the universe, and is doing a bunch of stuff with the Rift and the 8th edition stuff, yet has a ancient metal miniature. So clearly he's going to get replaced at some point.
His story kind of dead-ended in a way.
Like, it was like he did all this stuff, and I mean, he
won.
He won. He destroyed Cadia.
And then they were like, we're going to talk about Gilliman for several books.
And then he's like, I'm out of here. Vacation time.
So, I mean, he's just kind of heading towards Terra amorphously, right?
Yes.
Like, for 200 years.
So I'm totally expecting him to come back. But an Ynnari Codex. An Ynnari Codex would be really interesting. It would give the Eldar 4 codexes. Everybody cross everything you have. That there's going to be an Exodite Codex. That would be number 5 at some point in the future. That is not. I have heard nothing about that.
And that'll be great because you can be like, what's the head Eldar god or whatever? Is there like there's not like a central Eldar god, really? I guess
not really.
Then you could be like,
Eldanesh.
This is
Asherman.
Assyrian?
Yes,
right.
Assyrian.
It'll be the head of Assyrian, and each finger is a book, right?
Dun, dun, dun. He's just been trying, desperate to get any Infinity War talk he can into the show. There you go. There's your done.
But no, it'd be good. My theory is that the Ynnari book, because what do you add into it, right? You want new models. And
it's weird because the Ynnari really just have 3. It's like, I mean, they made an Imperial Knight Codex with 1 model. So the Ynnari have 3 models, but all their models are characters. They don't have like troops and things because it's a religious movement, right? So there's 2 different ways. Like there's my way of thinking about it, where these guys need like their own version of an aspect warrior, right? That's maybe like the people who follow the Vizarch, because the Vizarch is an exarch who fell madly in love, right? So hey, he has disciples, right? And I like that concept because like the Eldar, the Craft Worlders have all the temples because they're aesthets, and then you have the one fallen dark aspect warrior temple, the Incubi. So give the Ynnari their version of a single aspect temple. Like maybe these guys are like religious fanatics, right? They're like they're the true believers
of death,
which is cool. Sure, and that'd be neat.
My version of it,
and then there's Abe has a wholly different version.
No troops. It's only named characters. Just give them like 7 more named characters, and these are just the disciples of Ynnit or whatever, right?
You have the Old Testament version where it's just all where the army only picks all of its other things from the other parts of the Eldar society, and all of the book would cover is just a bunch of famed basically
prophets.
Prophets, and that's and just like Vrain, like there's that concept that like you make the Vizarch better and give him some more powers because he's grown, and we already know what the Incarn does, and you have Vrain and have some more.
I mean, let's think about it. We already have Kabbalite warriors, Dire Avengers, Guardians, and Storm Guardians, right?
Sure.
To pick from like a really basic troop thing, right? Like you don't need another Eldari basic infantry with a splinter.
You want to know what I want? I want like a reformed Archon.
Sure.
Like an Archon who's seen the light.
But like we've already talked about.
Sweet.
That would be cool. We've already talked about how like what's the difference between witches and troops, right?
Sure.
In those things. So you already get to pick from all the other stuff. So don't give them troops. Don't give them units.
Just give them more profits.
Just give them a bunch of cool characters.
That is cool. I could see that.
And that would be a unique take on an army, and I think it would work well without changing how the Ynnari work.
It would definitely give them a lot more play to expand the narrative and what's going on in the lore, because then you have all these other people who've been converted and they're going off into their aspect. Yeah, because we have the Vizarch is a reformed Exarch. If Vrain is a reformed, she was a
lot of things, right?
Right, but the last thing she was a witch.
Right.
So you could take other high-ranking people from the other aspects of Eldar society and pull them over, and that'd be super cool.
It'd be super cool.
It'd be super cool.
You could even update some of the named characters.
Oh,
to
sure.
Be
yeah.
The Ynnari version of the game character.
And it'd be and from a meta point of view, definitely a book. The real reason you actually need a book is that it gives them a chance to take kind of the last of the weird little bizarreness that's still left over from Index Xenos 1, and they just get to rewrite it from scratch, so it's not going to cause weird Eldar soup problems, because the Ynnari are still very much shoehorned in and cause weird problems with Eldar soup lists. There's a lot of abusability, and just, they've tried to change it multiple times. Just blow it all away and start over and do it the right way.
I honestly...
With a standalone codex.
Well, I mean, the Ynnari are going to get a codex, right? Or they're going to be in a book
at some point. Yes.
They're too big of a part of the current fluff
to not warrant a book.
To not get a warrant. I mean, even if it's in a campaign guide like they first came
Yep.
out, they're going to get something. I would expect every faction, not necessarily every unit, but every faction that's in the Xenos or in the indexes to get a book of some sort at some point.
Sure.
Because that's the smart money to bet on, right? You don't create factions and then update them and then not give them a real book. So there'll be individual units and models like Rough Riders that don't make it into codexes.
It's okay. The
Rough Riders coming 2020.
The Rough Riders will always live in your heart.
You know what? If Sisters of Battle can get a new plastic reliefs, then Rough Riders can come back.
I agree.
Codex Attilans, right?
Yes. Oh,
it would be so good.
It's the Attilan / Praetorians.
It would be
combo.
It would have to be it'd be Codex like Riders of the Wild.
Right. Riders of Destiny.
Yeah, it would be Attilans, White Scars, and Exodus. That would be the campaign. It'd be 3 books, right? And the lists for the Rough Riders.
We ride dinosaurs, we ride bicycles,
and we ride horses.
We ride horses.
And go crazy.
All right, guys, we're going to, Abe and I are going to step out. We have Adam, Harry, and JR are in the house to take you into RPG land, because we got all kinds of cool stuff coming this week. Pull all this stuff. Abe, can you grab those knights?
Oh, can I?
All right. Hey, guys.
Hello.
What's going on?
The internet.
Hello, the internet. Yes.
We're back with 2 copies of Mordenkainen Tomophos.
One of them's correct.
Yeah.
Well, they're both correct.
They're both correct.
Yeah. There was actually a slight recall for some of these. That's
some of the covers were
dinged
damaged.
up a little, but they're going to reprint them and resend them out. So,
yeah.
But it's out now in select stores, and at the end of the month.
At the end of this week. I think.
This week,
yeah. Or very early next week. They'll be out everywhere, and you can get your hands on a copy, and you'll want to. This is a book that I've really, really been enjoying digging into. It's great. I mean, it's great if you're a player because it introduces some cool new stuff. Like it introduces the Gith
Yankee
and the
Githzari.
Githzari. Actually, I believe it's pronounced Jith.
So
it introduces the Jith Yankee and the Githzari.
We're not going to have that debate on. I don't know. We need to call the people that made it, and then they can tell us how to say it correctly.
Now, if you just follow Kate Welch on Twitter, you will find out that is the correct way to pronounce it.
Real quick, though, I just want to interject. I got to talk about this last week, so I'm going to ask you what you think this week about it.
Absolutely.
Because, I got to spend more time with it this week after last week's scramble to do it, and, it's so good.
It's really good.
And I've been saying that since, the beginning. So, JR, obviously, I like this book already.
Yes.
I view this as a great book, great resource for your DMs.
Absolutely.
Right? And what do you think? You mentioned some player stuff in there. I've touched on that. What was your favorite thing for players to have access to?
So I think the biggest thing that this book does is it kind of cements and expands the world of Dungeons and Dragons, right?
How so?
So you're used to the idea of everything sort of generically takes place in the Forgotten Realms, right?
Yeah, and there's no actual home setting, right? But there is,
and it's sort of the Forgotten Realms, but there's a lot there. And what this does is it kind of gives if you're a player, it gives your character like a place in the grander scheme of things. Like,
right.
If you're playing an elf, for instance, there's a whole chapter on like what happened in the elves, what their history is, sort of this ancient like conflict where Lolth kind of persuaded the elves to turn against Corellon, their creator. And they almost did, and at the very last second they were like, "Ooh, maybe we shouldn't." So Corellon still like kicks them out of Arvendor, which is Elven Heaven.
Elven Heaven, yeah.
And they drift for a while and end up scattered throughout the plains. But that kind of contextualizes like, hey, if I'm playing an elf, like, here's this stuff, here's this background that I can either lean into or play against. Right. And like just having that little bit of a guideline is super helpful. But nowhere is that more noticeable than for dwarves. So I don't know about you guys, but like for me, dwarves have always been one of the more like boring fantasy races.
Yeah, because for me, I know you've had that view of them too, and like for me, it's always like you've got the Tolkien kind of dwarves, and they're like they mine into the mountain and they get gold, they make cool stuff. They're short,
and it's cool,
good
but
fighters.
Like, that's the only version of them you ever see.
Right.
And here they expand on that, and they get into like the idea of like, okay, dwarves. Dwarven society, it's still under the mountain. They're still very like Tolkienian dwarves or whatever, but like they have a lot more context to play with.
Right.
Their society is kind of based around following their deities, and in order to do what their deities want, they master a craft or master a skill.
Right.
And they have this really rigid society.
Right.
That again is way fun to either lean into or play against. And either way, you can paint a much better picture of what a dwarf fish out of water, like a dwarf adventurer, might look like.
Because for me, honestly, like the Bioware game Dragon Age, what was the dwarf's name? Varric. Thank you. He was like the first dwarf in all of the history of dwarves that I remember that actually put some nuance and some character to dwarves, other than like, you know, resolute dudes from under the mountain.
like there's Gimli and then there's Varric, and those are like big milestones in playing what a dwarf character feels
like. Because like Gimli is like, that's your typical dwarf. Like, okay, if I want to play a dwarf, I'm playing the archetype I have in my head is Gimli, right?
Right.
Varric is like, ooh.
There's some new spice, new flavor here.
And with Mordenkainen's,
you get a lot of that, especially since they introduce. Well, I guess they reprint the Duergar, but with a lot more introduction.
Yes,
to them.
the Duergar section here is fantastic.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It really does a great job of contextualizing why they broke off from society, what their point of views are, why it's interesting to actually explore that narrative, and as a DM, if you're looking to have a twist, like, because they're viewed as like, oh, they're the drow version of dwarves, they're the dark dwarves, they're just bad guys, like whatever. But this book helps contextualize that and say, maybe they're not all that bad. And they do some fishy, shady stuff, but here's the reasoning behind that.
Yeah, and a lot of the evil stuff they do is either motivated by greed, which is apparently something all dwarves grapple with now, or it's because they hate Moradin because they feel like their god turned against them.
Right.
But also,
can we talk about what happened to them real fast?
Yeah.
Like, so the Duergar, they get... Basically, they're a clan or a family. Yeah, essentially,
they're a bunch of dwarves who are kind of in the Tome of Foes. They talk about how dwarves have to grapple with greed, and it's this idea of like basically taking a shortcut to create something wonderful. Like, sure, you could spend 50 years making this epic statue that's amazing and will last for a generation, or if you found like an old treasure. That nobody's has seen before. You're like, I totally made that. Yeah, make me king.
Yeah.
So the Duergar are these dwarves who get lured by the mind flayers.
Right.
Into
like, digging deeper, to digging a tunnel that they don't know, but they feel like there's this giant treasure on the other side of that rock. So they're digging and they're digging, and they crack into the mind flayer's lair, and whoop. they get their taken over, right? And for generations.
And the Mind Flayers, like, modify them. I mean, it gets real sci-fi.
Yeah, it kind of does, yeah.
They, like, graft psionic abilities onto them. They empower them. They give them, like, all these crazy... That's why that they can enlarge themselves and do other things, which is hilarious. Both as a player and it makes for great monsters, and there are a ton of good examples of that in here.
But that twist on them, eventually they throw off the shackles of being enslaved by the Mind Flayers and overthrow them in ways, and that's why they're still at war with them.
Yeah.
But now they're free, and they come back to Dwarven society and they're like, hey, we're back. We got twisted by these guys. We're back though. And
like, we don't want you.
Yeah, and they're like, well, where was our god? Where was Morden? Why did he leave us? Why did he abandon us? And so that puts a whole nother spin on Duergar and Duergar Adventures. I for the first time I think ever, I've wanted to play one of them as a player race, and you can with this book, or I guess you can also find them, I think, in Out of the Abyss. But yeah, it'll take a little bit of work, but you can do it.
Yeah, well, no, they're straight up a player race in here.
Yeah, I mean, like, yes, it'll take some work creating your character and like putting the time in to do it, but yeah, you could totally do it.
Same with the Jith. Those guys are great.
Jith.
Yep.
Jiffy Lube. Jiffy.
And the other thing I think that this book really does, that you'll kind of find both as a player and especially as a GM, is it suggests stories.
Yeah.
So like when you're flipping through an encounter, it's pretty easy to look at this book in particular and be like, oh, I see how all of these pieces fit together. I think part of it's in the layout of the book, and part of it's in the design of the monsters. Like you'll find abilities that are complementary, and that.
Oh, I know where you're going with this one. Tell them the thing you found.
So, and I think I might have talked about this in one of the videos.
You probably did,
yeah. But I'm going to tell you guys live and in person.
Boom.
One of the things in here is they have a monster called the Star Spawn Hulk.
Yes.
I will get up from my ivory tower chair, and I will see if I can find a picture of these guys. Nope, they don't have any pictures of these guys.
But what do the Star Spawn do?
All they have is a picture of the larva mage, which...
Yes.
Hey, he's that guy right there.
It's pretty sweet.
Anyway.
By the way, the artwork in this book, top notch.
Top notch. Anyway, so the Star Spawn Hulk is a big, like, beefy challenge 10 sack of hit points.
Yeah.
They're AC 16, so super easy to hit by the time you're up there.
By the time you're level 10.
But they have 136 hit points. They are resistant to non-magical attacks, and anytime they take psychic damage, instead of taking psychic damage... they deal that damage to each creature within 10 feet of them.
Yeah.
So they kind of are like these...
It's called Psychic Mirror, is the ability.
They're these, like, psychic nuke points, basically. And they have another monster, the Starspawn Seer, which is like the sort of mage overlord thing of that. And one of their basic attacks is a psychic orb, which does, like, 5d10 psychic damage. So, like, it's pretty easy to see, like, okay, take 2 of those Hulks. Or if you really want to, like, hose your party, take a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And start lobbing psionic orbs into them, because
they're immune.
They're immune. They'll deal that damage to their friends, who will also explode. Like, it only chains once.
That's want to clarify, they did FAQ this, that a Star Spawn can get hit once, he'll activate another Star Spawn, and that explosion will not go backward. It'll just,
But...
Yeah.
So it's a ton of fun.
Yeah, it's one of the cool things in this book. It's so good.
The other thing I want to talk about is Pathfinder 2.0, which we don't have a book of because they're not out yet. You can pre-order the playtest documents for it.
Yes.
I think you still are able to. And you can go to Paizo's website to find out more about that. Because the playtest is officially coming out at Gen Con this year. So
we'll be there.
Yeah, we're going to be there. It's going to be huge.
Yeah.
Like, watching this, watching the development of it is really interesting because... Pathfinder, as you know, has been around for a while. They sort of iterated off of the stuff that made 3.5 amazing. And when sort of... So the timeline of D&D is like... after 3.5, it splits off and goes to 4th edition, and Pathfinder continues developing 3.5. A lot of times,
as an independent game.
Yeah, a lot of times you'll hear people refer to it as 3.75.
Right.
But it's its own, like, really rich and like deep system that allows for customization. If there's one thing that makes Pathfinder stand out from any other role-playing system, it's the amount of a class-based system, at least. It's the amount of customization that you can put your character through,
and just the pure amount of number crunching you can do. I mean, there's so many extra supplements that came out with it as well.
And so with Pathfinder 2.0, they are really working on taking a lot of the streamlined sort of modern design that's going on right now. Because like 4th edition, love it or hate it, it changed. It changed the way that people think of RPG engines. Like
it's true. Yeah.
Those impacts we're still seeing in 5th edition and in Pathfinder 2.0 as well. Like they've done a lot to simplify their own rules. Characters have like 3 actions that they can take on their turns now, and certain things cost more than 1 action or whatever.
Which is gonna do,
It's new. It's different. It gives you a lot more tactical flexibility from round to round. They seem to be wanting to give you more granularity of choice.
Yeah, definitely.
While not increasing the complexity of the game too much. Their like goal is to balance as much depth with as much streamlined like stuff as they can.
Needless to say, this is a really big challenge for the team at Paizo to come up with. But I mean, from what we've seen so far, we're pretty excited about it, just as a rule set in general.
Yeah, so. you can find a whole bunch of their classes listed on either their Facebook page or their website. But what's really been exciting to me is one of the biggest changes, I think, is the idea of how they're constructing monsters. So monsters in Pathfinder were one of the hardest things to do because they're all. I mean, if you've played Pathfinder,
it's CR whatever, and it's just
and they're all
built. Lot of stats.
They're all built on the same like bones that characters are built on.
Right.
Like everything uses the same rules. They have universal monster rules. They had all of these things that like were like, all right, here is how we build a monster, and what that resulted in was a lot of monsters that kind of had those same rules and had that same like build and were maybe functionally the same. Like one of the examples they give on their site is like owlbears and tigers felt very, very same. Like they basically functionally did the exact same thing.
Claw, beak, claw, mouth.
Right, yeah. And they can grapple and whatever.
They can grapple,
but it's the same thing. They've since kind of like taken the more modular design and have like you just get the stats you need to run the monster. You get their bonuses to their stats, you get their number of hit points, you get their movement value and all that stuff. But you don't have to worry about like what feats they have, so you can figure out if their like unarmed attack bonus needs to have a penalty.
They became it's more streamlined.
Yeah,
it's just easier for the DM instead of having to manage like when you're playing, you're a player, you have one character to manage.
Right.
When you're DMing and you have to create all these characters, you have this stack of NPCs that you have to manage. And for fighting, if you have 4, 5, 10 or more monsters to manage, it can get a little unwieldy.
Like take grappling for instance. So it matters if you're a player whether or not you have improved grab, because if you want to grapple someone, that's like your character choice, and that's how you're choosing to engage with the game. But if you're a monster, like if you're an owlbear, or if you're designing a monster, like it doesn't matter, right? Like the feats don't really matter because you're almost never going to use them outside of one encounter. So if you want your monster to be able to grapple someone, they should just be able to grapple someone without provoking an attack of opportunity. So they've done a lot of like this monster makes an attack and as part of it can grapple an opponent or whatever. They have a couple of stat blocks up that you can see on their site, and we've talked about them as well on our site.
It's functionally it's the same. For the players, they're not going to probably notice like, oh, it's grappling, you don't get the attack. No, you don't. It just takes a lot of the legwork out for the DM for monster construction or encounter design, because now they don't have to sit down and flip through all the feats and make sure that it's all lined up correctly.
And two, they've embraced the idea of giving monsters like signature abilities, which I mean that gives them so much more flavor, and it gives them a lot of more things that you'll actually use in an encounter rather than a laundry list of abilities that are cool but very situational.
Yeah, and they can make things different. Like the owlbear claw beak is different from tiger claw bite. So it's going to be they have different stuff now.
and like Pathfinder's already a ton of fun to play. If you're playing it, you love it, and you know how much fun it is. And you know, like, it can be a little bit of work, but it's worth it. And this one seems to be improving the usability of it. So I'm really excited to see what they do. I like the customization options we're seeing for characters, especially. Yeah. You have, like, in addition to your archetype, you have your background, and you have like class features that you can kind of switch out. If you've been playing Starfinder at all, a lot of those decisions kind of made it through to Pathfinder 2.0.
You can see the train of thought.
And this is the first time in like a decade that they've made a massive overhaul to Pathfinder's engine. Like, I mean, there have been changes, obviously, but
they cleaned up the rules a little bit more, and you know, the reprints, that had a lot of errata fixing stuff that way, but never an overhaul like this.
Yeah, Gen Con is going to be huge this year, so I'm
excited to go check out the Pathfinder Hall again.
Yeah,
because we took you there last year. Was that your first time?
That was my first time.
And you walked in there and like. It's 1,000 people
or whatever. 1,000 people playing role-playing games. That's what I like to see.
And just the banners of all the key characters, and you're looking around like, what the crap?
What is happening?
It's so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, really cool.
You can, I believe you can still pre-order the Pathfinder stuff on their website. It will go away pretty soon, I think at the end of the month. So if you want to get your hands on that playtest document, do it. I don't know when the second edition is supposed to be out officially. I know the big playtest starts this August.
Yeah, and then Gen Con we'll see it all at Gen Con as well.
The other thing that Pathfinder is doing right now is they're switching up the way they do their adventure paths.
Talk about that.
So real quick, kind of to close out the deal, the adventure paths are after the current ones for both Path and Starfinder, where they're swapping to shorter campaigns. Like, you still get...
back up. What is an adventure path?
So an adventure path, for those of you who don't know, is like a 6-part... basically campaign, and they can take you from like 1 to 20 as far as levels go, or 1 to way up there, right? And if you play through them, you start at the very first level, you go on something that kind of spirals out into this huge sprawling adventure, and they're a ton of fun.
Was the blood the Blood Queen?
There's like there's like the Crown of Fangs,
the Crimson something. We did a review of it. I forget the name of it right now, but it was a whole adventure path about vampires, basically from level 1 to wherever.
Yeah, and
you interact with the Crimson Court or whatever.
Right now they have they're doing the War for the Crown, which is this like succession war in the country of Taldor, and it's a blast, and it's like a lot of intrigue and stuff. But basically, they're different like flavored and themed campaigns that you can run, and each one kind of has a different like central conceit.
Right. Were these from the Pathfinder League, or were
no? These were you could just buy them and you'd get them. Like they'd come out in supplements of 6. But now they're switching to 3-part campaigns instead, so that they can give you more variety and more tools to create and run with your own stuff after it. Or you can just play it and be done with it, because one of the big things that I think both Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder folks have talked about is they're seeing like the way people play campaigns is kind of changing from how it used to be. Like now it's more about like, okay, we've told a story, we've finished the adventure, let's do new characters. Let's finish
I've lived in those
characters'
shoes for a while. I want to try something new.
And part of that's just the way we consume media is changing. Yeah. So the stories we tell as a result is changing.
And at the same time, if you want to run one of those big, epic, sprawling campaigns that goes on forever and doesn't actually have an end point, you can still do that.
Absolutely.
But those are always going to be homebrew games anyway. Yeah. And these the campaigns, these type of adventures were always supplemental to that, to your own homebrew stuff.
The way I like to think of it is it's the difference between watching X-Files or binging on like season 1 of Stranger Things all at once, right?
Exactly.
Like instead of waiting week to week to see what happens, you can just tell your story, be done with it. You binge game.
You binge game
over 2 months instead of 2 years.
You get your game. You get the story. I think that's what people want too. They want the final story.
Yeah, you want that resolution. You want that like, okay, we did stuff. Maybe we don't get like the everything's happy forever, but we did this. It's done, and way to go, team.
Yeah. So
anyway,
that's pretty much it for
that's what's new in
the
world of RPGs. There's more exciting stuff coming out all the time.
Mordenkainen. It's coming out.
June 1st, the next big D&D stuff is being announced on their Twitch stream, the Stream of Many Eyes.
I think it's going to involve a beholder.
Almost certainly.
Well, we'll check you next time. I'm Adam Harry.
I'm JR.
And this has been the BoLS Talk Show. Thanks for watching.
Woo!
Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.